You know what? I am very disappointed in Universal Studios right now. How could they be this cruel to their fan base? I mean, to not follow up on Tom Cruise's The Mummy and create a dark cinematic universe filled with shitty versions of classic monsters, it just... How could they do this?
How dare them?
How dare they? I mean, it's going to really upset the fan base of Tom Cruise's The Mummy, all three of them. I mean, to be just so cruel and uncaring, how dare they hire a smart, gifted filmmaker like Leigh Whannell to do The Invisible Man? What do they think we want? Quality? You know what? I actually have a hotline directly to Tom Cruise's house, so I'm going to give Tom a call, and I'm going to discuss the matter with him, and we're going to figure this out, because we need more CGI-filled dark universes, God damn it.
You tell him that.
Tom? Oh, I'm so sorry. Sounds
that
like...
wasn't Tom?
No, that definitely wasn't Tom Cruise. It sounds as if Tom Cruise is crying himself to sleep over not being able to make any more Mummy movies. It's a real tragedy. Okay, good. Sorry, I had to check my seat real quick because we just got back from seeing Universal Studios' The Invisible Man, and I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm gonna spend the next week looking over my shoulder because that was a pretty damn creepy film. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it gave me little shivers and chills in the theater.
You know, let me just say that 2020 has been such a disappointment when it comes to horror movies. I mean, we've had to sit through films like The Grudge, The Turning, Fantasy Island, starring Michael Pena, and it hasn't exactly been the best year for horror so far, but along comes The Invisible Man, another adaptation of H.G. Wells' classic novel, and I just have to say, watching The Invisible Man, directed by Leigh Whannell, horror is back.
Yes.
Horror is back in style.
But yes, we needed a movie that was going to scare the pants out of us. You know, something that would like give you goosebumps, something that will make you cringe and lay in bed at night. That's what I wanted, and we got that with Invisible Man.
And this might be a weird comparison, but I would compare it to the original Halloween, because in the original Halloween, there would be sequences where Michael Myers will not be present, but you felt his presence. Like, it made you feel very paranoid and uneasy, like he could just be lurking in the corner, and he could appear at any second. The Invisible Man had the same exact effect as the original Halloween. There are sequences where you're not sure if he is actually in the room with her, or if she's just being paranoid, or maybe she is alone in the room by herself.
And she's just going crazy.
It makes you ask questions, and that's the thing that I love the most about this movie, is that almost the entire time you are just on the edge of your seat. You are worried as hell for our main protagonist, and you're just sitting there just in utter fear and terror.
Yeah.
I have to say right off the bat that I was a little bit worried about this new interpretation of The Invisible Man because, you know, especially after Tom Cruise's The Mummy, which was just a cinematic disaster, I was afraid that Universal Studios was going to desperately try to launch another cinematic universe with The Invisible Man, but they went the opposite route, and they hired a filmmaker with a vision. Leigh Whannell, some of you may know, was the co-writer of the first Saw movie with James Wan, and he also wrote the Insidious movies. He also appeared in the Insidious movies as well. But
Did he?
Yeah, he was one of the ghost investigators.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was Specs, I think his name was.
Oh
yeah, that's
my
him.
Goodness. Yes, okay.
Yep, and he was also the lead in the first Saw movie. He was the one trapped with Carrie Elwes inside the dungeon.
Wow.
So he's come...
Did he make an appearance in this one that we know of?
I don't think so. Okay. I think he remained behind the camera for this one. But this movie was incredibly well made.
Yes.
In the hands of a less talented filmmaker, this could have come off as completely ridiculous.
I think one thing that really stood out to me, and I wanted to make a point to mention this, was one thing I really liked was some of the crisp of the
The crispness.
The crispness of the film. Sorry, like that opening shot with the water hitting the rocks.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you had the names of the production company and stuff
Mhm.
like that. That was really, and then it even gave you even from the bat gave you those, that spine curling,
Yeah.
goosebumps up your arms, just.
The opening credit sequence was very creative, and I miss creative opening credit sequences. It wasn't just white text against a black background, it was visually appealing.
Yeah.
And, with other adaptations of The Invisible Man, the movies, particularly the 1933 version with Claude Rains, they would focus on the Invisible Man himself. He would be the central character, and they would primarily be about his insanity and how he goes about killing people.
Mhm.
But not in this movie. This movie is about Elizabeth Moss, who plays this woman who has been in an abusive relationship with this brilliant, albeit psychopathic scientist, played by Oliver Jackson Cohen. And just the opening sequence where she is escaping from his house. She's trying to sneak out of the house because she doesn't want him to know that she is leaving. It's just very tense. And
yeah, because even right off the bat, I mean, you knew there was something up because the trailers, perceived that, this guy wasn't such a good guy.
Mhm.
But right off the bat, you don't really know deep into the story. And you still had that feeling of, okay, get out of there,
And Winal's decision to follow this abused woman who is living in constant fear of this man, it was ingenious. Because especially nowadays, I'm sure there are many individuals who suffer, from a situation like this. I'm sure they've been in an abusive relationship or whatever, but this movie it was just incredibly effective. It's the first legitimately good horror movie of 2020.
Yes.
What were some other things that you liked about it?
I would definitely say that I liked the fact that, you didn't know whether, because I mean, right off the bat, you think this guy's committed suicide. He's dead. He's, it was going to be one of those, he's coming back from the dead to haunt, haunt her. Not coming back from the dead, sorry. But, basically a demon possession kind of movie. He's just coming back to haunt her.
We don't want to get into too many spoilers, but this definitely isn't a case where the villain is ambiguous.
Yeah.
Because they make it very clear that this individual is stalking this poor woman.
Yeah.
And I cannot sing enough praises towards Elizabeth Moss because she is astounding in this movie.
She did amazing.
Just early on, just her body language, she's walking around kind of hunched over. Her arms are, to her side.
Always on alert, cautious.
She looks like a frightened animal, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And we sympathize with her immediately, but I thought she was amazing.
No, I agree. I liked her for portraying that kind of role. And I'm sure that was a very, very tough role to, to portray, but she did an amazing job to pull it together and made you actually really feel for her.
It's a fearless performance. And hold on real quick. Why am I holding a copy of Batman the Animated Series? Well, I might be the only individual on the face of the planet to make this connection. I'm sure I'm not. I'm sure there have been others. But Elizabeth Moss did appear in an episode of Batman the Animated Series called See No Evil. She plays a little girl who gets stalked by this man who wears an invisible suit.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
Uh-huh.
Look what I got for you.
Ooh, it's beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome, sweetie.
And it's funny that I remember that. This was nearly 30 years ago.
And you're just okay.
And so that connection to me was hilarious. And, to go from appearing in an episode of Batman the Animated Series to appearing in a really good Blumhouse horror film, Elizabeth Moss, you've earned yourself a new fan. I haven't watched The Handmaid's Tale. I heard it's really good. Unfortunately, I haven't watched it. But what did you think of the other characters and actors in this movie?
Definitely, I would have to say I haven't came across an actor in this movie that was particularly bad. I really enjoyed the characters of her friend and his daughter. They were very lighthearted, fun.
There were some likable characters in this movie because once she gets away from this abusive significant other, she moves in with this cop and his daughter, and they have a very good relationship, and you can tell that they've been friends for a while, and
he's just looking out for her.
He's just looking out for her, and this movie, likable characters. For me, having likable characters in a horror movie makes it even better, because if I can have people to latch onto, that makes the experience even more worthwhile for me.
Yeah, and even her sister, who we didn't really get so much of a performance from, even her character, you kind of grew a like towards, because she was just a concerned sister for.
What did you think of the actual scare sequences in this movie? Like particularly early on?
I feel like I was back as a child, just sitting in my seat watching a really good horror movie, and just waiting for that moment where something was going to jump out. And when it did catch me by surprise. Like normal scares, like I can just I can predict it, and I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to get scared, and usually I don't jump. But there's a couple scenes in there where I did get some jump, like that. There was a scene where she was up in the attic, where she was looking for his
cell phone,
and she finds it along with some other stuff, and then she hears some noises coming from downstairs, and you're sitting there thinking, oh,
the end of that sequence. It definitely made me jump.
It was pretty neat how they did that sequence too, because it was like, okay, you see her peeking down, the stairs, or not stairs, the ladder, and then you don't see anything. And at first, I'm just sitting here thinking maybe the cop and his daughter came back from whatever, and she's gonna get herself in a pickle. But no, like she either, I can't remember if she knocked it down or she just threw it, but she threw paint.
She throws a bucket of paint.
Yeah, I didn't know she knocked it over. I couldn't remember that part because I was like, ooh.
Which was one of the many effective scares in this movie. And like Alfred Hitchcock, Leigh Whannell plays the audience like a piano, because there are many sequences where he will just focus the camera on a dark, empty hallway.
And you're sitting there thinking, why the heck are you walking down this hallway?
Or a camera will slowly pan to the left, but nothing is there, and then it will slowly pan back to the right. And something this movie doesn't do, which was such a relief to me, most of the time in a horror movie, when the camera pans to the left, but there's nothing there, and then it pans back to the right, usually something will be
right behind them.
Yeah, something scary will be right behind the character. He didn't really do that in this movie.
I was expecting those too. Whenever it would happen, I'm sitting there going, nope, he's going to be standing right behind her.
And if I had any gripes, I will say this. I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but I will say that when it came to the scares in this movie, particularly early on, I mean, the situation isn't supernatural, but
I think that's what makes it more scarier. Like, I was just mentioning that to, someone that, what makes it more scarier, isn't because it's a supernatural force, but because it's, things that, that could happen in real life situations, and it's, scary.
I guess what irked me a little bit is that, things happen that we've seen in other movies, particularly haunting movies, where something will be floating in the air, or an invisible force will grab the character and, throw them across the room.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, what makes it more effective in this movie is the fact that this isn't a supernatural force. This is a bit more grounded. It's someone who, is out to get this lead character, someone who actually, exists in the real world. And that does make it scary.
And he's just full-blown psycho.
And there's one sequence in particular set inside this restaurant, and I do not.
I know.
I can't
say and spoil it, but
I was clapping like a madman during the sequence, because there's a moment where Elizabeth Moss meets up with another character inside this public restaurant, and let's just say that something happens that really caught me off guard, but
it was really well done.
It was incredibly well done.
Like, he just was not expecting it. Like.
It came out of nowhere, and
the camera shots. I really liked how they did it, because 1 minute it's focused on one thing, and then you go back over to Elizabeth Moss's character sitting there, and then you see it, and then it like shoots right back over real quick. Just that panning was really like, oh, I liked it.
It was so good, and we're not going to give away what happens, but man. a horror movie, a horror movie, particularly nowadays, if a horror movie comes out that is able to surprise me, I have to give it nothing but props because that sequence alone was amazing to a horror fan like me.
And like I've said in many like of our reviews, to me, what makes a good horror film
Mm-hmm.
is if I can't predict it or the ending, like knowing what's going to happen at the end, then it's a really, like, to me, makes it a really good film then. Because if I can't predict it and it throws me off,
Mhm.
but it's really clever how it throws you off, it's good.
It is. And we have to talk a little bit about the climax because I can see the final 10 to 15 minutes of this movie possibly rubbing certain viewers the wrong way. We won't get into why, but
I really love the fact that the audience in the theater.
Yes, because the third act begins with this typical action-packed showdown between good and evil.
Mhm.
Elizabeth Moss is finally fighting back, and we get a particularly crowd-pleasing moment, and it did result in the audience clapping. But
it threw
the
us off
movie-
again, though.
the movie does continue for about 10 more minutes, and it's the kind of ending that, like I said, may rub some viewers the wrong way because there is a revelation in this movie. The revelation, I don't know. At first, I wasn't really sure what to think of it, but I spent the entire drive home thinking about the ending of this movie. And the more I think about it, I was like, you know what? The ending of this movie is making me think about it. Like, it's making me ask questions. And the fact that it's making me ask questions, I do have to appreciate it.
Yeah.
You may not
It's
like
still
it.
open-ended to where you can make your conclusions to what might have happened next.
You may not like it at first. I will say that. You may not like the ending at first, but really think about the narrative as a whole. How it connects to things that you saw at the beginning of the movie. When you really think about it, it does ultimately make sense.
Yeah. It pretty much pulls it together,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives you that satisfaction.
Mhm.
maybe?
And I will say this, it's the first new horror movie in 2020 that didn't make me want to run out of the theater screaming, out of frustration, because I was really wrapped up in this movie's narrative. Like, I really got into it.
At least it didn't have an ending like The Turning where you were just like, what?
Where you wanted to throw your popcorn at the screen.
Yeah.
Because the ending, what ending? The Turning didn't have an ending.
It didn't, no, yeah. And this wasn't one of those films that had that, so.
Mm-hmm. And just the fact that Blumhouse was behind this, because, man, I just have to say that when it comes to Blumhouse, it's pretty hit and mix.
I get
Hit and
cringeworthy
miss.
with Blumhouse as of late, because
Mhm.
it's like every time I see Blumhouse, I'm sitting there thinking, oh no, what are we getting ourselves into this time? But
It could go either way.
mhm.
We could get Fantasy Island, or we could Get Out. This movie was closer to Get Out, which I'm very thankful for,
Mhm.
because Get Out is amazing.
One thing I'd have to say is before we even went and saw this movie, and it was just the trailer, I swore I thought this was going to be almost like a replica to The Hollow Man
Oh, with Kevin Bacon?
with Kevin Bacon, but it was nowhere close to that. I mean, the concept maybe, but
Hollow Man was a little bit schlocky. This movie was definitely not schlocky. It was classy.
it was your
It
typical
was-
what you were saying, where it was focused on the on his character
Yeah.
and how he got mad and crazy.
hmm But to focus on Elizabeth Moss's character, that just makes it 100 times more dramatic, more engaging, and I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie.
Me too.
And damn, it was the first time in a while where an audience actually clapped
I know. I
at
always
the
get
end,
so
at the
giddy when
conclusion of a movie.
I literally got giddy when that happened. I was like, oh my gosh, I
Mhm.
like when,
And like A Quiet Place, the audience was very respectful during this screening.
yeah.
This was a good movie-going experience because we were all getting wrapped up in what was going on. We were all on the edge of our seats. Literally, there were some moments where you could hear a pin hit the floor. It was so silent.
Yeah, yeah.
And this would make a great double feature with a Quiet Place. They're both very well executed,
Mhm.
and just very good overall.
Surprise.
So props to you, Universal Studios. I know I joked earlier about your failure to give us a dark cinematic universe, but please continue to do this. Hire filmmakers with a vision, individuals who want to make something good
Yes.
and not something shitty like Tom Cruise's The Mummy.
And keep this going, Blumhouse. Give us more of this.
Yes, I'm so happy with the direction they took this movie.
Mhm.
But like we said, The Invisible Man, the first legitimately good horror movie of 2020. Gretel and Hansel was pretty decent. The
And it
rest
was a
of them
good
shit.
way to end February,
Oh yeah,
our second month into the year.
our second month into the year. And guys, thank you so much for joining us in our discussion of The Invisible Man. And just make sure that you're always looking over your shoulder to make sure that nothing is behind you, because I can tell you this movie this movie is going to turn me into a crying little baby. I'm going to literally curl up into a fetal position in bed tonight, and I'm going to just lay there shivering.
Hopefully, there's no flash.
Oh yeah, no. If my wife puts her hand on me in the middle of the night, I will most likely scream out loud. But Kim, did you have anything else you wanted to say about The Invisible Man?
Definitely go watch it. It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely would recommend this, and I'm definitely getting this movie when it hits DVD.
Oh yeah, watch it with an audience too. This movie plays really well to a crowd.
Yeah.
But thank you again, guys. We're in very good moods right now because this is what a good horror movie will do to us.
Right.
And I am just hoping that the rest of 2020 lives up to this movie.
Yeah, because now we got, what's the next one?
I know Quiet Place Part 2 is coming out pretty soon.
It's coming out in March, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yes, guys, thank you again for joining us. If you like this, go and subscribe to our channel. We got some really exciting things coming up. We're going to Phoenix Fan Fusion, which is essentially this area's version of Comic-Con. We're going to be talking to people there. We're going to be having a great time, meeting some celebrities. So we're really excited about that. I might be doing some live streaming during that event, so you'll see the both of us there.
Hopefully Robert England's there.
Yes, I would love it. Oh my god, if Robert get Robert England and Kane Hodder in the same room,
And Brad Dourif.
and Brad Dourif, and I will scream like a fangirl.
guys.
I will write down my phone number on a piece of paper and I will throw it at them.
I would be like, can I get a picture with you guys, please, 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 please?
Yes. Well, we're really excited about that. Thank you again. Have a scary night, boils and ghouls, and
Sleep with your lights on.
sleep with your lights on. Yes.